Williams up in prayer. She is recovering, and it's a process. And a lot of times with young people, sometimes you don't know what to say, and sometimes it's not necessarily our place to say, but when you're asked a question, sometimes saints don't ever be afraid to say, I don't know. And, I know we're very much aware of that when you're talking about, you're discussing what you get from a scripture. But when someone's life is in the balance, that's a whole nother realm. And and we all have things going on, but life seems to slow uh, when you hear from someone that is doesn't have the same assurances that they once had. And a lot of things that we think we know, and a lot of things that we would readily want to convey to the person, when you stop and think about what they must be going through and the uncertainty that arises, particularly when they're young. At any time, but when everything up until that point seems to have gone relatively well, and when you've done, of course, in our estimation, when you've done as best you can, sometimes it brings questions to your heart and mind, uh, and sometimes I know for myself when I embark upon a situation like that, you kind of, I find it easier, I guess, for lack of a better word. I just find it easier to just be a person, not a title, not a whatever your profession is. It reverts back, you know. And when I say title, I mean in terms of church system. Because, we're all, you're either someone's mother, you're someone's sibling, you're someone's father, you're someone's brother, you're someone's sibling, you're someone's cousin. When you embark upon a situation like that where someone is not quite sure, if they may see their next birthday, medical professionals, they do what they can, and that's no slight a lot of a lot of things that we have been exposed to in a church setting, sometimes it's found wanting. And I know for myself, on top of admitting that I don't know, not that that's any great confession, there's a lot we don't know. But I find myself a lot of times when I'm in a situation like that, because people aren't playing when they're in that realm. They're not so much interested in how much you studied, how you that stuff means very little. I remember I'm still in the church, so it doesn't mean that much. But the only thing sometimes you can do is that you can just encourage the person that even when things don't seem to be in your favor, he still hears. He's still with you. He still loves you. And the truth of the matter is, it's all up to him. It's not where you go to church. It's not in what capacity you serve, and it gave me an opportunity to just share some things. See, a lot of us have been brought up. Our relationship with the Most High is not. I'm hopeful that you realize your relationship with Him is more than what you do here. But you would be surprised how, in our trying to make sense of how He runs creation, which is a futility to us, but you know, we all do that. We're all trying to figure out it's as if we want to ask Him, Father, can I look over your shoulder to see how you're doing all of what you're doing? Particularly when we always feel like, because we are children of the Most High, we think we always have to give an answer. And sometimes, saints, we're not qualified to answer. All of the people that affiliate with us, that consider themselves members, friends, even acquaintances, keep them all up. And I think it was last week or week before, I said, and not only pray, but keep them in your thoughts as you go throughout the day. You know, and sometimes when you're talking to someone that's you know, one day is good, one day is not. I shared with him. I said, oh my, I got another pair. I shared with the person, I said, I could die before you. Your folks could go before you. Now, I know that's no consolation to a person who, in their estimation, life is hanging in the balance. And I wasn't saying that as if to say, well, get over it, just have faith. No, I don't operate that way. And I wish more of us would stop operating that way. I was sharing that because none of us know when we're going, but we do know we're going to go one day. I have another set of friends that they are his father would be 99 in June. And he fell, and now, he can't walk anymore. But he still thinks he can. And it's taking a toll on him and his sister, and and again, the only thing I could say to them, of course, we're in prayer about recovery. But I did get a chance to share with him. I said, listen, I'm not saying I know what you're going through, but I can imagine it's difficult. I said, but one thing I will say, I said it's frustrating, it's tiring. I said, but I'm going to tell you, don't shortchange the time. Because, if and when they go, they're gone for a while anyway, depending on your understanding of Scripture. Why am I'm saying this because people need real love in situations like that. People need real understanding. People, particularly those that are already in the family of faith, they need a human touch. They need a human ear. They need a human embrace. When you have those kind of conversations with people, that's when you really find out this person really loves me. Or maybe they see you in a different light. And I don't mean different in negative, but it's encouraging to people that are really having a difficult time. It does bless them when they can realize for real. Remember some years ago, we used to say, for real, for real, for real. But it strengthens the person. It does, and in this last situation, uh, they're going to have a birthday party for him, and they're going to come and get him out of the facility that he's at. But he doesn't have any strength in his legs, but they're going to have a party for him at his grandson's house, and I think that'll be wonderful. And see, these are the kind of things sometimes in the day-to-day goings-on, we almost, if we're not careful, we'll become robotic about what we're doing. And saints, sometimes that robotic type activity can seep into your prayers. Because you're on a schedule. I'm not taking pot shots at anybody. I'm speaking about how life is for us as believers. And I'm saying, don't lose your humanity in your pursuit of carrying out Torah. Yes, his words are spirit in their life, but the spirit inhabits an earthen vessel. So don't take that part out of it. I know we want to soar in him and reach higher heights. But don't forget the humanity side of you. Because that's where people that are feeling like their lives are in the balance, they want to know, do you really love me? Or is this just part of your shtick as a believer? And I used to say a lot of times when Pop was still here, I used to say, if the Most High wanted a robot, he would have made us robotic. But he didn't make us robots. Let me get another pair of glasses. Y'all streaming people, just deal with it. We're going back to Genesis 44. We're still dealing with Joseph and his brothers. And all of this is under the heading of family dynamics. Family dynamics. Mm. Mm. All right. In 44, I'm going to start in I'll just do a quick. In 20 it says, and we said unto my Lord, we have a father, an old man, a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead. And remember, I said sometimes, saints, we talk too much. We give up too much information. And I wasn't being mean-spirited or anything. Sometimes, saints, we're too forthcoming. And in business and in employment situations, sometimes it's just best to answer what was asked and nothing more. Now, when you're in the early part of an interview, yes, there's a little bit of a feeling out process, but you do know that even, and I'm using this for a reason, even in an interview process, you're not, yes, you're the one looking for employment, but you also have the right to ask questions. And see, if you're really uh, honed in and you're really serious, you'll do a little research about the place that you're trying to get a job at so that you can convey to them that I've done a little research on your company, and they're impressed by that. That's, yes, it's a little bit of blowing up smoke, yeah, but they like that. But sometimes in life, situations occur, and we just get to talking. Sometimes if a situation occurs and law enforcement is involved, I'm not telling you to lie, but don't spill your guts. Because when they read you your rights, they say what? Everything you say can and maybe will be used against you in a court of law. So, of course, Jacob, he was upset because he was like, well, wait a minute. How did you all get into all of that? I sent you guys down there to get some food. And, of course, we all know Joseph and his brothers, they went through some things. They had good days. They had bad days. And they were brothers. They were blood related. And at times they got on one another's nerves. And at times they said things and they did things to one another that might not have been so loving. I mean, sometimes, family members, we argue sometimes. Sometimes we fight. Not in all families, but in a lot of families. Sometimes things happen that you don't get an opportunity to, quote unquote, make it right. But in this situation, it did happen. But nevertheless, the things that were done to Joseph, they were pretty rough. They were very rough. I'm saying pretty rough because I'm in church. But they were rough. But Joseph wasn't totally innocent. He did some stuff too. And sometimes, saints, we do stuff. Even as a child of the Most High, a child of the King, the head and not the tail. We do little stuff. And then when someone reacts in a way that maybe, well, for as long as you've been in God, you shouldn't react that way. Well, you can make that assessment, or you can make that statement, but really you're not, you can only make that statement about yourself. A lot of what the Most High shared with Joseph or told Joseph, Joseph couldn't wait to throw it in the face of his siblings. And it didn't help the fact that at that time Joseph was the youngest and he appeared to be his father's favorite. A lot of times we think, there's nothing to sibling rivalry and things of that nature. And there are cases where things really, really got out of hand. But it came to a point where Jacob had to send him back and send Benjamin, because that's the way Joseph set it up. Now we might think, well, with all of how the Most High delivered him, and he got in one jam, and the Most High got him out another, and you would think, oh, he would just be so, oh, I'm so grateful, and this and that, and oh, and he still loved, and again, he still loved his brothers. He still loved them. Sometimes you can still love a person, but not like some things about them. I was, folks, even as children of the Most High, could we all, and I don't want anybody to agree, just think about this. As a child of the Most High, and as someone that has endeavored themselves for the balance of their days, I want to do His will. I want to live a life that's pleasing to Him. Do we think that every day we don't irritate somebody? Don't answer. Just think about it. What about, peculiar habits that we might have that might really pluck our siblings or our parents or our spouses or our friends? Are we willing to change those things? Or do we see them as, a small thing, because after all, I'm a servant of the Most High. And He's shown me that I'm going to be great in the kingdom. And man, just wait till I get this thing. When I get my ministry off the ground, it's going to soar. In 45, his brothers had returned, and Benjamin was there, and I believe last time I said that he had he gave them all a good portion, but he gave Benjamin, I think it said 5 times as much. But I pointed out, and some may agree, may not agree. I'm telling you, there was a little bit of, no. I'm surmising that there was a little bit of jealousy in Joseph about Benjamin. Why do I say that? Because his father thought he was dead because of the story that his brothers told him. And Joseph knew that at one time I was the favorite. Now, I'm not saying that he had a diabolical plot against his brother. I'm not saying that. But again, I'm not asking you to raise your hand or acknowledge or agree or nothing. Just think about this. Have you ever had situations within your own family where there was a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy? Just think about it. Just think about it. It could be something as who got better grades. It could have been who was the fastest to do what the parents said. Or it could have been who told everything. Even if you paid them off, they still told it. They took the money and told it anyway. And then you start thinking about stuff. And sometimes, even among siblings,
sometimes things will arise. Well, you were more of a headache than me. Oh, I wasn't a bit. No, you were more of a headache. You know, and I'm sharing this because all of this is part of family dynamics. And this in here is going to show us something. Mm, mm, mm. And, you know, in 44, they had discovered, after Joseph had told his manager or whatever, put that uh, goblet in Benji's bag. And of course, once again, one of the brothers said, well, again, speaking out of turn. Well, whichever one did it, he should have to, I think he said, even be put to death. Now, why would you want to say something like that about your family members? And that's something, folks, that we don't understand. Again, I don't want you to say anything, but I want you to think about this. How many of us have said, it's my life, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and we've decided we're going to do this thing, not thinking about the fact that whatever you do is still a representation of your family? I'm not asking you to agree or disagree. I'm just asking you to think, ponder. Ponder it in your heart. And in Christian circles, when something happens, sometimes people go, well, where they go to church at? You know, now they want to indict the whole church. That's how off we've gotten. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. And then it says in 45, then Joseph could not refrain himself before all of them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him while Joseph made himself known unto his brothers. See, things had got heated up. And Joseph was trying to, I won't say get even with his brothers, because he, you know, all of this stuff, put this in this one bag. He was orchestrating all of this. And I'm trying to show you something. Now, this is the same person that the Most High delivered out of one situation after another. All the stuff with Potiphar's wife, going to jail. Now he running things. Life is good. And all of the things that he told his brothers were coming to pass. Now, most of us would say, well, you know, if that had been me, I mean, I wouldn't say it about myself, because I know how I am. And I don't mean that in a good way. But how many of us would have thought, if God had done all of that for me, we don't know. But I'm saying, even though he still loved his brothers, he took them through that, because he was bruised when he couldn't believe, you're going to leave me in this pit? Mm. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all of them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? Let me read it out of another translation. Remember now, things had got heated. They was like, oh my goodness. One of the brothers, well, whichever one took it, he ought to be put to death. I'm like, see, but you know what type of person. And again, I'm not throwing shade at the brother, but I'm trying to show you something. Because people still have that same thing today. If something turns up missing and you know you didn't steal it, there's something in our makeup. We can think of some horrific things when we're after justice because, see, we know we didn't steal it. But what if your cousin stole it? What if your best friend stole it? What if your spouse stole it? See, at that time, we are so concerned. If I'm in the clear, whew, which loosens our lips. That's when we, again, get to bumping our gums. Well, whoever did that, they're lower than an infidel in our righteous indignation. And I'm saying all of this because I want you to see that even though they didn't say those type of words, the same type family dynamics go on today. While we're all sitting here looking dignified. And again, I'm not throwing shade, I'm just speaking reality. I mean, listen, he exacted to some degree his pound of flesh. I mean, let me let you hear this. And Joseph could no longer control his feelings in front of his attendants and cried, "Get everybody away from me." So no one else was with him when Joseph revealed to his brothers who he was. Now, see, with all of what he had done, and I'm showing you more family dynamics, and we all need to borrow from this. Things were at a fever pitch right then and there. And this was all mostly Joseph's doing. And so what did he do? He booted everybody out that wasn't family. Let me say that again. He booted everybody out that wasn't family. Now, what if one of the attendants had said, "Well, see here, Joseph, I've served you for 25 years. I'm not leaving. I'm part of the family." What do you think would have happened to that attendant? Don't answer. Just think about it. Joseph got rid of everybody that wasn't family for that moment. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because regardless of what is going on in your life, there comes a time where if they ain't blood, they ain't family. No, I'm not being harsh. Sometimes church folk don't respect boundaries. And it creates havoc. Don't care how many times you throw Yeshua's name around. It still creates havoc. And the havoc generators are never around to help clean up the mess. Oh, boy. Mm, mm, mm. And as Joseph could no longer control his feelings in front of his attendants, and he cried, "Get everybody away from me," so no one else was with him when Joseph revealed to his brothers who he was. He wept aloud, and the Egyptians heard, and Pharaoh's household heard too. And it wasn't hard for them to hear, because you know once they got out the house, you knew what they was doing this. Because that's another thing about some church folk. And I'll keep it nice. They're very inquisitive. They love information. And, you know, I've always wanted to ask people, why do you want so much information when you can do nothing with it other than say, oh, I knew that? Does that give you some kind of brownie points? Saints, we can only control what we can control. The rest is left up to the Most High. I am Joseph. Is it true that my father is still alive? His brothers couldn't answer him. They were so dumbfounded at seeing him. Now remember, a lot of times in prior verses and in prior chapters, he spoke to them through his attendant or his manager. But we remember in a time again, he had gotten so moved that he had to go away and he cried, but he got a hold of himself. So yes, ladies, yes, Joseph has emotions. Men have emotions. And now, society now is saying they don't want us to have emotions now. Wow. That's amazing. Well, see, society is schizophrenic. You know, the sad thing about it, most of us, we can tell you what we don't want in our lives, but very few people can actually tell you. No, they can tell you, they can give you a response. Here's what most will say, and this is either way. I want a God-fearing spouse, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because that's what we've been trained to say. But is that what you really want? Going into business, I want my partner to be a person of integrity. But you do know a dishonest person wants to go in business with an honest person. Two dishonest people do not want to go into business with one another. But yet they want an honest partner. Mm. His brothers couldn't answer him. They were so dumbfounded at seeing him. Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer. They probably started backing up. Wait a minute. Because see, immediately, once he said that, you know what happened. Their minds went back to Galilee. We left the man in the pit. See, sometimes when people have done you wrong, they can't even look you in the face. It's hard. And I ain't forget. And sometimes when we've done people wrong, we don't want to look them in the face. So it looked like to me the brother started backing up. His brother, he said, please come closer. And they came closer. He said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. See, in other words, I'm your brother. I love you, but you dogged me out. I remember we were real young. And we had started going over to my Aunt Ann's house. And my mom had 4 boys and 1 girl, and my Aunt Ann had 4 boys and 1 girl. And the oldest of my aunt, I'm not going to call his name, but the oldest of her children was the same age as me. He came in January and I came in March. But I'm the middle child, which is why I'm so special. But all of us, we were going over. Now, I don't remember. I don't think Sherry had come on the scene. I can't really remember, but the gist of it is this. They went out. The grown-ups went out and they left the boys. And my oldest brother, and I'm not going to call his name, but my oldest brother had a knack for, he would get me to get in fights because I was so small. So, you know, most people figured this guy ain't going to be no problem. And he would say, I bet you can't beat that little guy over there. You know, he would do that. Now, mind you, we're at our cousin's house. And so he got to picking on my cousin. And he soon found out my cousin wasn't going for it. So they in there, they tussling. And, you know, of course, my older brother could take him. But when the parents got back, we all got it. We all got it. My aunt and my mom was furious. Because they were saying, y'all are blood, what are you doing in here fighting? We all got it. And then, you know, this back in the day, I don't think they do this no more, but they made them two hug and kiss each other on the jaw. And we never had no more, we kid one another, you know, but we never, we didn't do that. Now, the Green Boys still fought with each other. Well, I fought with most of my brothers. And my cousins got into a few scrapes with each other, but we didn't the Greens and the Keys didn't fight, you know. And see, when I'm studying, all of this kind of stuff keeps coming back because that's when we realize, you know, family is important. And so, golly. Mm. Mm. Please come closer. And they came closer. He said, I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't be sad that you sold me into slavery here or angry at yourselves. Well, why? Why did he say that? Maybe he said that because he was now over that, but he was angry because why? What was the first thing out of his mouth? You done me wrong. Now that'll make a good R&B hit or something, you know, or a good country song, you know, because usually in a country song, either the girl left him or his dog died or something, you know, or the blues, you know. I mean, he started immediately. And fellas, you know, when we mess up, she can tell us everything that we did in the mess up. She can tell us what we was wearing, where we was at. She remembers all of it. So don't mess up. Especially you young fellas. But it's interesting how when he revealed himself, the first thing out of his mouth, well, he did ask, is my dad still alive? But then he said, yeah, I'm Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt, put me in the pit. He probably ran down the laundry. And then you remember how y'all was talking about y'all wouldn't be bowing before me? You broke your neck then, didn't you? Now, of course, he didn't go into all of that. That's just my rendition of it. But it is interesting that he spoke about the offenses first. He let them know, I love you. He said, don't worry. Don't be angry with yourselves. But that was a low thing. That was a low thing to do. And then he says, I'm Joseph, your brother whom you sold into Egypt. But don't be sad that you sold me into slavery here or angry at yourselves, because it was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Oh, here we go again. All is well, but then I can imagine one of his brothers, there he go tooting his horn again. God has sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Do we have people like that today? Yes, we do. And some of them are not necessarily in leadership. Correction. Some of them are not necessarily in servant leadership, which is what we're interested in, not leadership. Any donkey can lead. But if your vision is more about you leading the way, not by demonstration, but by the very authority that you hold. Bubblegum. God sent me ahead of you to ensure. I'm ahead of myself. God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. The famine has been over the land for the last 2 years, and for yet another 5 years. There will be neither plowing nor harvest. I see. So he's saying, listen, things are going to get tight, and they're going to get tighter. There'll be no plowing, no harvest. And I kept saying, and again, I'm not saying Me and him ain't in the same category. So I'm not saying that. But I did say I have some concerns, folks. I said that in 2023. I said, hey, let's try something a little different this year. And again, I'll take this opportunity. I hope you're still making some entries in your journal. I hope. I'm not asking, I just hope. I'm not telling, I just hope. More layoffs are coming, folks. The state of California just about a few days ago, which is good news on one hand, but I'm going to show you something. All fast food workers now make $20 an hour. I think in the state of Maryland, all of a certain restaurant has closed. If I'm not mistaken. Now, here's the other thing. Yes, I wish that people could make $25 an hour. But you do know that cost is going to be passed on to the consumer, which is us. And you say, well, Brad, that ain't my problem. I don't live in California. Wait a minute. The next move that's going to happen, half the workforce is going to be cut. And I feel for the young people. You got two young people, they got a young family, and maybe they're both working right now minimum wage jobs. How are they going to make it? If just one of them lose that position, that's tough. A few years ago, folks, down in 1 minute, if you were in, what do they call it, IT, living down in Silicon Valley, making a powerful income, you know, with the advent of AI, that's going to make some differences in that sector. Other industries are going to be hit. I'm not saying that it has to happen. I'm saying in looking at forecasts, we have got to get a hold of our spending habits. And again, I'm not saying don't spend, but I am saying when you have to, make it count for you. We're going to get back to Joseph, but I'm trying to show the parallel between then and now. Maybe, and hopefully, yes, this thing won't take 5 years to play itself out. Plus, you know, we got to get ready because we got some other decisions to make, and I don't want to get into that, but we did agree, or at least I asked, that we're not going to get sideways with one another because of how somebody either vote or don't vote or whatever. But there's going to be a tightening starting this year. And so we want to be wise. We want to be wise, period, but we really want to be wise when it comes to financial matters. I want to pick up the next time I have the privilege of coming before you because it's going to get better for Joseph and his brothers. But I'm going to cut it off right there because one, Ridge done cut the thing off, which means sit down. But I want to close with this. Regardless of what happened between them, none of them forgot that they were still family. And that was some tough stuff. None of us would have wanted to be in Joseph's shoes. God bless you.